Welcome to another episode of Fly Ventures at the Vise. In this episode, I will demonstrate how to tie a perch pike fly. This is a reasonably large fly, about 7 inches long, and although the colors here are set to represent the appearance of a freshwater perch, the pattern and process is easily extensible to other baitfish types, utilizing other color combinations. This is an all-synthetic material fly and as such will not hold much water, making it castable with a 6 or 7 weight rod. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the design. There are aspects I would like to change in follow-on versions. It can be seen, this fly, when complete, makes a decent perch representation. The colors are vibrant, it swims well, responds nicely to a line twitch, very fishy looking. The materials required to tie this fly are as listed here. Size 2/0 heavy wire predator hook, 1.5 inch heavy wire shank, a 0.30 lead wire 4 keel, green, brown, yellow, and orange polyarn, 3-inch brushed out polyarn brush, 5 thousandths monofilament thread, stick-on fish eyes, liquid fusion UV cure. The most important material for this fly, or family of flies, is the polyarn brush. A brief overview of that process will be provided. The polyarn dubbing brush process begins, in this case, with 4 colors of Bonnycord polyester macrame yarn. The 4 colors are cut into 8 to 9 inch lengths and tied off with a zip tie. The 4 colors are then teased out to expose the individual strands of polyarn. Using a slicker brush, a dog grooming tool, brush until all of the fibers are free and a clean hank of brushed out polyfibers remains. From each hank of brushed out polyarn, cut into 3-inch lengths as seen here. Approximate how much of each color is required. Takes a little practice. From here, on your dubbing brush table, arrange the materials symmetrically across the wire in the table center, positioning the fibers as uniformly as possible. After placing the upper wire over the polyarn fibers and removing the assembly table, spinning the wire from both ends binds all of the fibers into the brush and appears as a tangled mess. Again, utilizing the slicker brush, brush aggressively to free up the trapped fibers. This does take a bit of effort to get all of the fibers free. Once complete, will look like this. Depending on the size of the fly, 3 or 4 flies can be completed with 1 brush. In an effort to shorten this video, I have chosen to speed up the replay. We start the tying process by placing the shank in the vise to tie the tail portion of the fly. Using some 100 denier GSP, close off the open ends of the shank, half hitch, and lay down a base of monofilament thread. Using the brushed out polyarn, trim out full-length strand sections of each color and tie them in approximately 50-50. Brown, fold over, yellow, fold over, orange, fold over, then green. It is important to make sure that each color is stacked directly over the previous. We want to maintain a visible color segmentation. When tying in these tail sections, less is more. It is easy to use too much. The amounts shown here are very good. The length of these segments is not so important right now. Allow plenty, the tail will be trimmed to shape when we complete the fly. We are now going to utilize some fast curing UV resin to form a solid tail to maintain color separation of the tailing fibers. Squirt the resin into the tail fibers. Use your fingers to spread it out and work it in. Hit it with your UV torch, flip the fly over, and repeat the process. You may have to do this a couple times to get the desired stiffness. In this case, once was enough. Moving on, we will complete the tailing section of the fly by adding in the dubbing brush. Using the mono thread, tie in the brush wire, fold it over, tie it in, trim off the excess wire. Now, grabbing the brush with one hand and using the fingers of your other hand to brush back the fibers, wrap the shank with 2 tight wraps, then proceed forward with more open wraps, brushing the fibers back as you proceed. The use of the open wraps will provide a less dense body. Continue wrapping, folding fibers back as you advance until you reach the shank eye. Tie the brush in, trim off the excess, and set it aside for later. Apply a couple of half hitches and then a whip finish. Trim off the mono thread and brush out the body. This completes the tail section of the fly. Placing the 2/0 hook in the vise, add 6 to 8 wraps of 30 thousandths lead wire. Slide the wire down to the bend of the hook, reposition the hook for open access to the lead wire. Apply some UV resin to secure the wire in place, cure it, flip it over, repeat the process. Reposition the hook in preparation for the next step. The addition of this weight will act as a keel and help orient the finished fly in the water. Now, let's connect the two sections of the fly. Apply a mono thread base to the hook. Take a 5 to 6 inch length of 20 or 30 pound mono. Tie it in on the far side of the hook shank. Feed the mono through the eye of the tail section and tie the mono in on the near side with a couple of loose wraps. Set the offset distance between the tail section and the hook. Secure the mono. In this case, I was happy with the spacing. No additional adjustment was required. Trim off the excess. If you have a hair clip, it is useful for holding the tail section during this step. Now we're going to add some green poly yarn to the top and some yellow to the bottom of the hook to hide the space between the hook and the tail. When adding the yellow, try to add it evenly on either side of the hook. Again, don't worry too much about the length. The green and yellow poly will get trimmed later. Now, tie in the dubbing brush. Advance your mono thread to the eye of the hook and half hitch in place. Now apply 2 close wraps of the dubbing brush, pulling the fibers to the back. Then advance forward with more open wraps towards the front. Once you reach the eye of the hook, tie it off, clip the excess, and give the hook a good brushing to loosen any trapped fibers. We will now be adding more brushed out poly yarn to create an overwing. These layers will be tied in increasing lengths to build a hump to add to the profile. Starting with the brown, then the green, these fibers should reach almost the end of the tail. The idea is to build a natural taper. Again, trimming will be performed to generate the final teardrop baitfish pattern. We will also be tying in an underwing in yellow. Again, this material will help provide a broader profile and give the fly a bright belly. We will now move on to building the head profile and completing the fly. Take a swath of orange poly yarn, wrapping it over the hook, trying to get uniform coverage. Tie it down in the center, apply a couple loose wraps, position the material, cinch down on the thread, pull your mono thread through the material, comb back the fibers, and build a thread dam in front of the material to train them to stand back. We will repeat this process with a swath of black poly yarn. If you crowd the eye a bit, simply push back on the materials to make more space. Be careful not to overdo it. Again, pull your mono thread through the poly yarn, build a thread dam to control the fibers. When satisfied with the profile, half hitch and whip finish. Now brush out the head to loosen, straighten, and align any poly yarn fibers. It is at this point you will want to remove the fly from the vise and begin the trimming process. The desired outcome should look like this. Should have an increasing body thickness as the profile moves from the head to the tail, beginning to taper to more or less a point at the tip of the tail. Trim carefully and a little bit at once. Once trimmed, you can't put materials back on. Once satisfied with the profile, you will move on to completing the head. The head is formed by applying a thin, uniform coat of liquid fusion adhesive. Apply dabs of the adhesive on the polyarn and smooth it out using a bodkin. Add the liquid fusion a little bit at a time and spread it with your bodkin. Rotate the fly around, adding the adhesive as you go. When it cures, it will be soft and pliable, not rigid. After allowing the liquid fusion to cure, it's time to set the eyes and finish the fly. Using a dab of E6000 adhesive on the side of the head, place the stick-on eye. Rotate the fly, repeat the process. Make sure the eyes are reasonably lined up and press them firmly together. Now take some UV resin and apply around the edge and coat the eye. Cure with a UV torch and repeat the process. On the other side, the fly is now complete. From an aesthetic standpoint, next time, or for future flies of this size, I would use a larger eye and move them further away from the hook eye. That would provide a more lifelike appearance. Technically, this could be fished without the eyes altogether. Here is the fly in its completed, trimmed, and ready to fish state. It really does look nice. Here is a final look at the pike perch pattern in the swim tank. Again, it does swim very nicely and it does look great in the water, and I think it's going to fish just fine. Bonus stuff. I chose to tie 2 additional variants, this time to represent a standard minnow, mostly black, gray, and silver. Both of these variants were tied with the shank leading the hook. Both were tied with the 1.5-inch shank with a 4/0 trailer hook. One was finished using a fish skull head, the other with a glue-on eyes. The still photo was taken before the eyes were added. They can be seen in the test tank. From a functional or fishable perspective, having the hook more centrally located will provide more consistent hookups than that with the hook forward, at least in the 2/0 leading hook size. If you lead with a 4/0 or a 6/0, you might be okay. I do like this variant. If I would change one thing, I would go to a softer, more flexible connection between the shank and hook and vice versa. I guess I will bring this to a close. I'm approaching 13 minutes. If you stayed with me to this point, thank you very much for watching.